Also, that one point about solid state batteries for how do I put this? The airlines, you know, the fact of the matter is that airlines, you know, this is interesting because ChatGPT mentioned that running a laptop on an airplane creates an 100-watt limit, which is a point that nobody had raised to me in response. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I use it because, it makes me have to consider things that I wouldn't have otherwise considered and everything. And, ChatGPT makes me smarter. It's like a force multiplier that also catches some of my more ignorant, statements and everything. And so, I asked it question wise, has hadn't considered the airline constraint. Is it likely to change with better batteries? And it writes back, that's a good catch point because the limit is less how advanced is the battery and more what risk can aviation regulators tolerate in a cabin, cargo fire scenario. I'll check with the current regulatory framing so we don't build the answer on state rules and everything. And it wrote back, probably not soon, at least not just because batteries get better. Right now, the FAA passengers rule is 0 to 100 watt hours is allowed. 100 to 60 watt requires airline approval, and over 160 is forbidden on passenger aircraft. The FAA frames this around lithium battery fire risk and whether the battery incident can be handled safely in the cabin. IAT's passenger guidance still uses the same broad watt-hour categories for lithium batteries, with extra attention on power banks and spare removed batteries. For built-in laptop batteries, the 100-watt line is the practical design wall. That's why big gaming laptops often tolerate a top out at 99.9 watt hour. It's not a coincidence. It's an engineering trip. It's an engineering right up to the regulatory fence. Could solid state batteries change that eventually? Maybe, but regulators would need evidence that the new chemistry behaves differently in aviation failure scenarios: puncture, crutch, thermal runaway propagation, cabin fire suppression, cargo hold detection, damaged packs, manufacturing defects, and poorly certified packs. Counterfeit. Better energy density alone might actually make regulators more cautious, because a 150 laptop still contains 150 watts of stored energy, even if it's safe for chemistry. The more likely near-term outcome is that the same 100 upper watt limit, much better battery laptops inside it. Solid state lets manufacturers put more real runtime, better life cycle, and maybe stronger discharge capability into a pack that still stays, less than 100 watts on the label. For gaming laptops, that could be huge without any rule change. A future 99-watt solid state pack might deliver more power more comfortably, degrade less, tolerate heat better, and fit in less space. But a gaming laptop pulling 180 to 200 watts still drains on a 100-watt battery basically brutally fast. At 200 watts, a perfect 100-watt battery lasts, about 30 minutes. At 100 watts, about an hour. At 50 watts, about 2 hours. Okay, that's the discharge rate, though. So that's the watt hours. And so the dream solid state battery. Sorry, this is confusing me. So the real dream is solid state plus smarter power behavior, efficient APUs, better GPU idle, frame caps, upscaling, variable refresh, and battery gaming modes that target 30 to 60 FPS instead of pretending the wall outlet is optional. The chemistry helps, the power budget still rules. Well, the batteries. The guy. So I wrote back, well, the batteries I'm hearing about have literally been cut in half, punctured, and put through a battery of abuse without anything happen. Those demos are genuinely impressive and they matter. The wrinkle is that aviation rules generally move from this chemistry can survive abuse in a demo to millions of consumer device, all manufacturers, all failed modes, damage, counterfeit packs, and airline environment very slowly. And yeah, and that's exactly why people are excited. A battery that can be punctured, cut, crushed, or abused without venting fire is a fundamentally different risk profile than today's laptop lithium ion packs. This abuse test you're describing are usually variants of nail penetration, puncture, crush, cut, overcharge, or thermal testing. The point is to simulate internal short circuits and mechanical damage. Battery design notes that nail penetration was usually meant to reproduce an internal short caused by rogue metal contamination inside a shell, which is one scary failure modes for conventional lithium-ion cells. So yes, if those results hold at commercial scale, aviation rules absolutely could eventually treat them differently, but this would be slow. The key phrase is eventually. Regulators would need boring, repeatable proof across full packs, not just individual demo cells, aged cells after hundreds of thousands of cycles, hot, low, cold, low pressure aircraft environments, manufacturing defects, damaged packs, third party chargers, counterfeit or low quality cells, and thermal runaway propagation from one failed cell to neighboring cells. That last bit matters a lot. A single solid state pouch surviving a nail is awesome. A dense laptop pack surviving on one bad cell without propagating heat to the rest of the pack is the aviation certification boss fight. There's also the classification issue. Current rules are written around a lithium ion watt hours, not just flammable liquid electrolyte or not. FAA guidance still says 0 to 100 watt is allowed. 101 to 60 watt needs airline approval, and over 100 watt is watt hour is forbidden on a passenger aircraft for lithium ion batteries. The current U.S. regulation likewise states that portable electronic devices lithium ion batteries must not exceed 100 watt hours under that passenger exception. So even if a solid state battery is dramatically safer, the rulebook initially still sees lithium battery X watt hours and apply the same ceiling until regulators can create separate category on exemption. My gut read: the first big win will not be raising the WH limit, but getting laptop makers to use the 100 limit more aggressively and safely. Gaming laptops already hug that line at 99 to 99.9. With safer cells, manufacturers could pack them tighter, improve thermal isolation, and maybe reduce the productive overhead, and keep the battery healthier under laptop heat gaming abuse. Longer term, though, I agree with your intuition. If solid state packs built a stronger safety record, it would be rational for aviation authorities to say, okay, this certified chemistry pack design can go above the old limit. But regulators won't move because a YouTube puncture demo looks sick. They'll move after standardized testing, incident data, and a certification framework make it hard not to. So, we've just generated a huge amount of shit that made us smarter, with ChatGPT and everything. So, we do need solid state batteries for x86 laptops and even gaming laptops, but the road ahead to that area that would make it a big difference is slow and arduous. It's going to be a long time before we see something like that, and the FAA, the airline industries are going to need to test it extensively before we'll see longer, battery life on x86 laptops, because these laptops are, one of the contexts that people use laptops for is to take them on planes, and so a gaming laptop is basically a desktop PC with equivalent to a desktop PC with an uninterruptible power supply, which is great and all, especially if you need to do firmware updates. But you see my issue here. We're x86 is dying presently and everything, and it's because of this. If we can extend the battery life, when running gaming on, a Windows laptop running an x86 chip, that could be a real game changer for the laptop space and could be the savior of x86 laptops. If we could go above the 160 watt upper limit, with without needing airline approval, because the battery chemistry had fundamentally changed to a solid one that isn't explosive, and doesn't have the same fire risk and profile, and they put these batteries through extensive testing on their end, and we pressure them to do it, and everything, which we would. This could be a real game changer, and everything in that space. Now, I didn't realize that this may be causing some reluctance for, the companies that I contacted to go down this rabbit hole. Now I'm smarter. I realize this may be one of the reasons why they don't want to do this, why their use case is cars, but I think it's worth it because it's a huge amount of money, is at stake here. So, the laptop market, the global laptop market is valued at approximately 272.91 billion in 2005, with a revenue project to reach 293.4 billion in 2006. The market is expected to grow at compound annual growth rate of 7.4% throughout 2006. So that's the size of the global market for laptops. Now, gaming laptops are only going to make a fraction of that and everything, but it also includes thin and light laptops and everything that get for people that aren't gamers too and everything. But this could help revive x86 out of the current slump that it's in and everything, especially if they do go and jump through the loophole. So I think it's worth it. There's a lot of potential money at stake here for companies, and it's not just yeah, there's more money in cars, but you're basically leaving a whole huge amount on the table if you don't go through the hassle of getting them, trying to improve x86 laptops.